Mike Woodson and the Hoosiers picked up another big win on the recruiting trail on Tuesday, and he has another shot to get a win on the court on Wednesday. Exciting news with the commitment of Gabe Cupps that we will talk about, as well as previewing the St. John's game for the men's basketball team tonight.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? It is Wednesday, November 17th. This is Locked On Hoosiers, your daily source for IU athletics, news, analysis, just a fun time we try to have here. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Rude. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We've been setting some record numbers for the podcast the last week or so. Big shout out to you guys. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Hoosiers. As I mentioned, the Hoosiers got another commitment on Tuesday, a 2023 guard in Gabe Cupps. We're going to give you all the information you need on him before jumping into the men's basketball game tonight against St. John's in the Gavitt games. Give you a little bit of preview of what to expect with the Red Storm tonight. As always, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you guys listen to your favorite ones at. You can also follow us on Twitter at LO_Hoosiers and on Instagram at Locked On Hoosiers. Gabe Cupps was a name that was on the lips of many IU fans over the weekend. For those that monitor recruiting closely or were following various IU beat writers, you probably would have seen that Cupps was on campus over the weekend. Turns out he was on campus to commit, kept it a bit of a secret for a couple days. But the Hoosiers land his commitment. He's a 2023 guard, 3-star recruit on 247. Their composite rankings, but a 4-star recruit by 247 itself. He announced his commitment on Twitter, as basically all kids do nowadays, on Tuesday. Big win for assistant coach Brian Walsh, who recruited him, even dating back to when Archie was in charge. He was recruiting him, made his case for still recruiting Cupps when Mike Woodson took over, and Woodson took a look at him, and it wasn't hard to convince him to get him to continue recruiting him, offer him a scholarship, and eventually land that commitment. Cupps is a 6'2" point guard, 165 pounds. Honestly, after watching some film on him, he's Aaron Craft-esque. He is a hard worker, a tough kid. Defensively, he's going to get in your grill. Knowing what little we know about Mike Woodson, we know how much he values defense. That alone makes sense for why Woodson was down to continue recruiting him. He's going to make an impact on that end. He's going to get up in your face, going to be aggressive, going to poke the ball loose, annoy you, all those things that we associated with Aaron Craft for seemingly 15 years when he was at Ohio State. That's the type of guy Gabe Cupps reminds me of, just that hard-nosed defender, can really set the tone for your team, really rattle the opposing teams, frustrate the hell out of the opposing fan bases, all those fun things. That's what it looks like Indiana landed in Cupps. He visited IU a number of times. I believe it was 5 times, officially and unofficially. He's out of Centerville, Ohio, which is in the Dayton area. So it's a bit of a drive to come to Bloomington regularly, but it ended up being the place for him. He's a second commit in the 2023 class, joins Ja'Kai Newton. Both of them are guards. Gives the Hoosiers a little bit of a foundation in that regard. We obviously know Jalen Hood-Schifino will be here next season as a guard. in the 2022 class. But with so much turnover, especially in the modern era with the transfer portal being such a big factor, a constant influx of guards is always nice. And you're able to play a lot of them, as we've seen this season with the Hoosiers already. Mike Woodson has gone 10 deep in his rotation. So as many guards as he wants to get makes sense, especially because also a lot of them on the current Hoosiers are upperclassmen who could leave basically at any time with the um, eligibility rules with the COVID year and whatnot. So interesting thing, last little note, is that it doesn't really seem so far that there's a common theme between the guards. Gabe Cupps is a very different guard than, say, a Jalen Hood Schifino, more of a scorer, playmaker, that type of guy. Cupps is more of the set everyone else up, set the table, communicate, defensive first. Not necessarily a bad thing. You want guys who can complement one another. I just thought it was an interesting note. Early on, doesn't really seem to be one type of player that Mike Woodson targets. We also saw Tamar Bates. He landed really quickly after taking the job. We've seen him on the court this year, more of a slasher scorer type as well. So maybe that's the type of guy he generally prefers. It's a similar type of profile with Hood Schifino, but we'll see as he continues recruiting. You know that Tom Crean always liked kind of those athletic project types, your Oladipos, your Sheehys, that were a little under the radar that he could kind of mold into something. And those two guys, for example, he molded into two terrific guards for the Hoosiers. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if there's a type of player that Mike Woodson likes to recruit. Right now, he is winning all over the recruiting trail. He continues to do so seemingly nonstop. He hasn't missed many with the recruits so far. He's missed a couple, but not many. He hasn't missed or lost any games on the court yet as well, although he's going to have his toughest test yet tonight as the Hoosiers host St. John's. We're going to talk about that game and about this St. John's team, but not before we talk about PrizePicks, which is the leader in college sports daily fantasy. They're a ton of fun, to be honest. They make watching college football even more fun. They have all your favorite props, or all the props you could possibly imagine, I should say, whether it's passing yards, receptions, interceptions thrown. The Hoosiers have done plenty of that this season. Rushing yards, anything you could imagine for all of the top players on the Power 5 teams, even a bunch of mid-major players you probably have never heard of. All users that deposit and use promo code Locked On right now will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. It's really simple. You just pick 2 to 5 players, take the over-under on some of those props we mentioned, and you can win up to 10 times your entry. It's not limited to college football. Lord knows they have every sport you could imagine: NBA, NHL, NFL, college football, college basketball, WNBA, Counter-Strike, esports. You can mix and match your entries as well. Get a lot of variety in there. Have some fun with it. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use promo code Locked On, or go to your app store. Download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. The Hoosiers have had 2 relatively easy games to kick off the season. In terms of opponents, they should have been easy, though they certainly made that first game against Eastern Michigan look awfully difficult down the stretch. But 2 fairly easy opponents. St. John's is going to be their toughest opponent yet. They will I almost said kickoff. They will tip off tonight at 9 o'clock on Fox Sport 1 as part of those Gavitt games. It'll be in Assembly Hall in Bloomington. I'm really, really excited to see what the crowd is going to be like. Couldn't even tell you the last time they had a big crowd for a big game that they were excited about. Those last couple of Archie Miller years, It never really felt like that type of energy was in the building, not the positive energy. So excited to see what the crowd is like and what um, the emotions are like, just that type of vibe, that type of atmosphere. Because there are a few places better than Assembly Hall when it's pumping, when the crowd's into it, when everyone's excited. That place gets loud. I've been there many, many times during or when it's done that. That place gets loud. It rattles opposing teams. So I'm excited to see if the Hoosier faithful can create that atmosphere tonight. St. John's comes in ranked number 47 on Ken Palm. The Hoosiers are 36th. As I've said a couple times, we're going to reference Ken Palm a lot. They're advanced analytics and they are very, very accurate. There's something I've referenced for a long, long time. If you haven't heard of them, they're absolutely a valuable tool. Ken Palm predicts a 76-72 victory for the Hoosiers, 66% win probability. BetOnline has the Hoosiers favored by 6.5 points with an over-under of 148.5. That 76-72 line is right at that over-under. So those two add up very well. Historically, this has been a really interesting series because in the 7 previous meetings, IU is 5-2, but in literally every other meeting, IU has been ranked. This will be the first time the Hoosiers meet St. John's when they are not ranked. The last time they met, I'm sure many Hoosiers probably blocked that out because it was in Maui in 2015. That horrendous trip to Maui that season in which the Hoosiers fell absolutely flat on their face. This was the only win they got out there. Yogi Ferrell had 22 points. Thomas Bryant had 19. James Blackman came off the bench for 12. The lone bright spot on that trip, it was a 83-73 win. The previous meeting before that came in 1999 in the tournament when St. John's hammered Indiana 86-61. That was the Ron Artest-led St. John's team. Artest had 13 points in that win against a really good St. John's side. The Hoosiers were never really in the game. They trailed by 15 at halftime, lost the second half by 10. Kirk Haston had 16 points. Just not a fun night for the Hoosiers. Prior to that, Indiana had won the last 4 meetings. A couple of those were as a number 1 ranked team. St. John's won the very first meeting between the two teams in 1952. So Indiana's been ranked in every one of them. St. John's has been ranked in 5 of those 7 games. It's a rivalry that typically has 2 really good teams playing. Both these teams are good this season. I don't know yet if I would classify them as really good because I don't really know if they're really good yet or not. Not much of a sample size to go off of. The Hoosiers defensively look really good. And for 3 of the 4 halves they've played have looked like a really good team. But you could also spin that a quarter of the time the Hoosiers played, they have looked rough. So I think this will be a barometer for both teams and figuring out just how good they are this season. We're going to look a little more deeply into this St. John's team, what to expect for play styles, and who are some of the players you might want to keep an eye on for this contest. First, I want to talk to you guys, though, about one of our new sponsors, NetSuite. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you guys are running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite's the number 1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With the visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and much more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 27,000 businesses are already using NetSuite, and right now, through the end of the year, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/lockedonncaa. Head to netsuite.com/lockedonncaa for special end-of-year financing on the number one financial system for growing business. netsuite.com/lockedonncaa. Sponsor that is not new and that I've talked a lot about is Built Bar. If you guys haven't tried them out yet, you are missing out. They claim these are Built Bar, or these are protein bars, I should say. They don't taste anything like them. They're not your chalky, waxy, hard to choke down protein bars. They're covered in 100% real chocolate and taste exactly like a candy bar. I recently had the order with cookies and cream and blueberry muffin, and I honestly thought they were candy bars, but they are very healthy for you. Low in carbs, low in calories, low in fat, low in sugar, high in protein. All the healthy benefits on top of being delicious with a ton of flavors. I mentioned the two I got. You have your coconut, your mint brownie, your salted caramel, your cherry barcia. They're bringing out new limited time flavors this month, every couple of days. I don't even know if they have that blueberry muffin anymore. That was a limited time flavor. Go over to built.com, see if they do. Use promo code LOCKED15 while you're over there. Get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We're going to preview the Red Storm here in just a moment. When we're done with that, make sure your second listen today is Locked On Pacers, as they are a little bit up and down early in the season. I know they recently were in New York, lost in Madison Square Garden, a brutal fourth quarter. Head on over there, see how the Pacers are doing overall this season. Also, shout out to the women's basketball team, number 4 ranked Indiana Hoosiers, who picked up a victory against Norfolk State on Tuesday, 72-42. It wasn't pretty. A little bit of after that emotional high on Sunday, a little bit of a low on Tuesday. They only led 17-14 after one, but a 17-0 run in that second quarter, led by who else but Mackenzie Holmes. Pushed the Hoosiers ahead at halftime, and they never looked back. Holmes finished the night with 22 points, tied, for the lead on the team. Alexis Goebel had 22 points as well. Holmes did most of her work in the first half, Goebel in the second half. Ali Patberg added 17 points. Grace Berger had 11 assists. Another big victory for those girls. They'll be back in action on Saturday before that big Thanksgiving Day showdown with Stanford. Back to this St. John's team, this men's basketball team. It's an interesting side the Hoosiers are going to come up against tonight. St. John's is a team 2-0 on the season. They downed Mississippi Valley State 119-61. You heard that right, 119-61. And then beat St. Peter's 91-70. Mississippi Valley State is roughly the same level as Northern Illinois, while St. Peter's is better than either of the teams IU has faced. To give you an idea of their level of competition, this is a team that is going to run. This is under coach Mike Anderson. They are a team that plays fast. They did so last season. They were 10th in adjusted tempo, 9th in average possession length. They do not hang on to the ball long. They get those shots up. This season, even with the small sample size, they are on pace to do the same. 9th in adjusted tempo, 2nd in average possession length at 12.6 seconds. They are not going to hang around and do that slow developing offense nonsense. These guys are flying up and down the court. They're first in the nation in effective field goal percentage, whatever that's worth through 2 games. It's a hot, high-flying, fast-paced offense that this team is going to be playing. So it's set up for an exciting game. We will see just how effective the Hoosiers can be. Couple names to watch for St. John's. The Red Storm is just such a great nickname. I keep wanting to say it. The big name is going to be Julie Champagny. He is averaging 21 points through the first 2 games this season. Um, he averaged 19.8 per game last season. He's one of the favorites for the Conference Player of the Year. He is going to be one of their big scorers, but he's not their only scorer. Posh Alexander returns from last season. He's averaging 15 a game, but he has made his name on the defensive end. He ranks 6th in the nation in steals per game last season at 2.6. This team wants to turn you over and get out in the fast break. He's able to create a lot of those turnovers. He's going to be a guy to watch for the Hoosiers as well. Montez Mathis is a name some of you might be familiar with. Played, I believe, 3 seasons at Rutgers. Transferred to St. John's this season. He's averaging 9 points per game. And then 2 guys off the bench that are going to be big scores for them. They're actually 3rd and 4th on the team in scoring. Is Tarek Coburn and Steph Smith. So this team is going to score in bunches. They've already scored over 200 points this season. So it's going to be a challenge, the first big challenge for IU's defense. We talked about that being the one big strength they've had so far. They certainly have not faced an offense like the one that St. John's is going to bring into Assembly Hall. Mike Woodson wants to be a strong defensive team. It's interesting. They obviously didn't schedule this game. It's a Gavitt Games matchup. But I would imagine this is probably the type of team that Mike Woodson would want to play. Really kind of a stress test, an early barometer on just how good that defense is going to be this season. It's going to be an interesting matchup. This will be the biggest home game for the Hoosiers until January, which might put an even added emphasis on how good that crowd is going to be. There's a couple other games that they're going to play. Syracuse is away. Nebraska is not that great of a team. That'll be their Big Ten opener. Wisconsin is away. Notre Dame is obviously at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Your northern Kentuckys, your UNC Asheville's aren't that big. Penn State's away, and then January 6th you have Ohio State, and that's going to be their next big home game. So this is going to be a big early test for the Hoosiers. Get a sense of where they're at, where they have to work. Hopefully it's a test they're going to pass, though. It's going to be an interesting contest that I am looking forward to. We'll see just how good these Hoosiers are going to be, just how good Trace Jackson Davis is going to be, and whether they can keep up with the tempo, whether they want to keep up with the tempo. I'm excited. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the game, hopefully a victory, hopefully a big victory with a decisive performance that can keep us even more excited. So thanks again for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about that victory, hopefully, knock on wood, but talk about the game nonetheless. Now, for your second listen, head on over to the Locked On Big Ten podcast with Nate Dickinson. I'm sure they are talking plenty about the silly college football playoff committee. For whatever reason, it feels like a bit at this point with some of the decisions they're making. Cincinnati, if they don't make it this year, the college football playoff committee should just stop pretending that group of 5 teams have a chance. So go over there, listen to those guys. I'm sure they've talked about that plenty. Appreciate the feedback, the ratings, the reviews, the love you guys have given us. It's been a great last about week and a half. Really appreciate it. And go tell your friends about Locked On Hoosiers. Spread the love, spread the word. We greatly appreciate the help. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a rating and review. But most importantly, guys, have a great Wednesday and LEO.